back in the People's Court, Mr. Fat Cat. Did you sleep well?
I always sleep well.
That's hard to believe. Well, I guess it's not.
On with it, Lady Lib. I got a squash game in Necker Island tonight. I gotta catch my jet.
Very well, Mr. Fat Cat. You and your friends at JPMorgan Chase took $94 billion in bank bailout money in 2008 and untold billions from the secret U.S. Federal Reserve relief programs. Step back for a moment and tell me this. Isn't that a tremendous failure?
It's not JPMorgan Chase's proudest hour, but this is the way economics works. The U.S. Federal Reserve creates money and gives it to big banks, who then trickle it out and eventually trickles onto you little people. I'm sure you've felt your trickle, haven't you?
How much of that taxpayer money have you given out as Fat Cat bonuses?
I don't see the relevance to this.
Answer the question, Fat Cat. The 99% gave you nearly $100 billion after you basically mugged them. You were threatening to destroy our economy. We saved you to save ourselves, or so we hoped. And then, how much of that money did you put in your own pocket for squash games in Necker Island?
Executive compensation should be determined by the free market. Miss Liberty, this is a rough time in our economy to be engaging in class warfare.
We'll let you live, forgive and forget. We'll throw you in jail, the 1%.
Yes, it is warfare, and you've got to stop. I mean...
You, them, here, this is class warfare.
Oh, you so started it, Fat Cat.
You started it.
I think you better answer the question. How much of that bailout money went out the door to rich people?
I don't know the answer.
$22 billion in wages and bonuses. $22 billion in wages and bonuses that went straight from these good people here in the pockets of some of the richest people in the universe. With all of your bonus money fairly distributed throughout the company, your frontline administrative systems would make $283,000. Instead, your secretaries are paid a pittance, and CEO Jamie Dimon is paid 893 times more than them. That's obscene.
Jamie is a highly sought-after executive. I can hardly expect you to understand, but a transnational bank needs a trusted, well-known leader. And if we don't pay at least 25% more than average wage, we'll never attract anyone good, and we'll be laughed right off of Wall Street.
I don't see anyone here laughing. You've laid off 14,000 workers since taking all that bail money and handing out these huge bonuses every year. 14,000 workers without jobs. The same workers whose tax dollars went to bailing you out to the tune of $100 billion. Oh, it makes me want to strangle you.
Aren't you supposed to be protecting me from this rabble? It's not ladylike to become the general in class warfare.
We'll let you live, forgive and forget. We'll throw you in jail, 1%.
Fat Cat, I think these people have heard enough. I hope that your struggle against them ends civilly. Remember, I'm from France. Marie Antoinette, enough said. But all right, people, we've heard the evidence of the last 2 days of trial. Who here believes the Fat Cat has served this community well? That he's shared his wealth adequately with the 99%? That he's at least lived and let live? Not so many. Well, how many of you think he's immoral?
Woo!
How many think he's, I don't know, greedy?
Woo!
Corrupt?
Yeah!
I'm a scapegoat.
Dangerous?
Yeah!
I'm a job creator.
A parasite on society?
Yeah!
This is class warfare.
We'll let you live, forgive and forget. We'll throw you in jail, 1%.
All right, Fat Cat, that's your verdict, dude. You've been convicted of being a parasite. That's pretty low, kinda. Strangely, I sort of feel bad for you, but you've got to be punished. Before you hear your sentence, do you have anything to say?
Yes. Understand where I'm coming from. I was raised by a single mother. She worked as a checker at a hole-in-the-wall grocery on a street you wouldn't walk after 9. Father ran out when I was 2, never called. My earliest memory is my mother buying me a Hershey's bar from the A&P. She leveled with me. She said, "We don't have a lot, but you can eat 1 square of chocolate every day till I get paid." She kept it on the kitchen table, right in the middle, still in the foil, so she would know that I was eating only 1. And I'll tell you what, I never sneaked a piece. I built a ritual out of it. After school, I'd dump my books at the door, rinse out my mouth, stand there in the gloom of our 1 bedroom, and I would let out that 1 plain brown rectangle melt slowly on my tongue. Wouldn't you? I'd let the cocoa and sugar slush over my tongue, and I would vow, one day you won't have to do this. One day, patience won't be a necessity. Although I never resented that it was. I learned patience young, and it assured me an education while a lot of boys on my block were practicing to be alcoholics and thugs. Patience saw me through 8 years of red on my balance sheet when my company was first beginning. I may be many things that you personally think are hateful, but I am patient. So it is with patience that I address the court as I explain why I will not beg for mercy. Coming into court today, passing through the crowd as the protesters hurled invectives at me, I heard the question, "How do you sleep at night?" Well, I offer you the most honest answer to that as part one of my explanation. I rest easy because of the work I do, that my company does, the way I live. All of it falls perfectly in line with the way things are. Inequality is an unchangeable fact of nature. We are unequal. We have been. We will be. Men may be created equal, but let's be men here. People don't stay the same. Some of us run faster and read more than the teacher assigned. As you've shunted me through this circus, I've tried to ascertain why you don't see this. I've asked myself, why? And I've studied you. I've studied you, and I find that you're mostly decent folks who, unfortunately, cannot see because your eyes are full of fantasy. You march to a beat of fantasy, wave banners of fantasy. You breathe fantasy, and you'd like to impose your fantasy on me and the United States. You actually think your slogans are gilded with morality. Well, in the business world, we don't trade in words like should. The market is what it is. We face what is. If you like your pretty stories, I have one for you. My first good year of business, my father reappears. After 25 years, floats into my office like a ghost. His hair's thinner, he's wearing suspenders instead of a belt. He's got a limp, but I recognize him right away. Still has that cannon of a laugh, same lightning blue eyes you naturally believe. Get lunch. On me. He orders a 12-ounce steak and slathers garlic butter on the rolls. Says, "I'd like to know you, your wife, my granddaughter." And as an, oh, by the way, asks if he can borrow a couple $100, as he was only last night evicted. And I do it. I throw the old bugger a clerk position in my company. I overlooked it when his cubicle stank with gin. I forgave the man for running out, let him paint my little girl's dollhouse with her when he was half gone. And what did I get for my trouble? He robbed me blind, got access to my accounts and took everything. My father. You give a man a fish, he eats for a day. You give a man a job, he destroys your goddamn company. Woo! So I don't give people jobs anymore. I don't give away money. You don't value what you're given for free. And if you need an object lesson in that idea, go to any public bathroom in a city park and you'll have proof in the form of piss on the floor and Neanderthal artwork on the walls. Woo! The people who work for me aren't given salaries. They aren't given bonuses. They earn them. And the money we accepted after the crash, we earned it. You can argue till you're blue about public versus private, but when the sun sets, do you want a roof over your head? You need a car so you can drive 45 minutes before dawn to your job. You need an artificial valve for your heart. You need a bank. The purpose of government is stop the hens from pecking each other, build fences so the foxes don't get in. Our purpose in this world is more fundamental. We help you to acquire the creature comforts that tell you the government's pen and ink promise of a more perfect union is being met. I've done nothing but respond to the world as it is. That's how I sleep at night. I accept that there are fat cats and wounded birds. It's called nature. When I was an undergrad, I was walking once from the library back to the dorms. It was late. I heard a chirping bird in the dark. Then Right there in the parking lot, I could see a gray cat huddled by the curb and a warbler with a mangled wing. What did I do? I did what any kid would do. I tried to scoop up that bird and help it into the tree. But as I did, the bird struggles. It hurts itself. There's blood on its yellow feathers. But I tried. I put it in the tree, and I start off. What happens? The bird falls out, and that gray cat comes creeping along the curb. So I shoo away the cat. I stomp on the ground. The cat scampers off. I start off watching, but the cat comes back, creeping along the curb. I'm upset. I scream at the cat. It's clearly a villain, right? I stand there for 5 minutes, red-faced, ineffective, but I realize this is the world. We can't stop the cats. We can't convince the lion he shouldn't eat the bowels of his young. You don't like it? Then you don't have a grip. That's part one. Part two. If I wronged anyone, a point that I dispute, I've only wronged the willing. Did I force anyone to accept a loan from my coffers? No. Emphatically, definitely no. So how can you indict a man of wrongdoing when his so-called victims lined up around the block to say, "Please, sir, I want your product"? You tell me I should have known these people couldn't pay. Well, that's cynical. I happen to hold what was once an American virtue, a thing called character. And if a person of character spills ink on a legal document, the terms of which are fully explained up front, they uphold the worth of their mark. Even if it means I get a night job wiping the bedsore ass of someone's demented grandmother. I weep for what this country will become if we decide that a willing, informed, needful person is actually a victim. I never false advertised. If we sold you a loan at 18% and it said on the agreement 18%, what's the deception? If you know what a percent sign is, if you've heard of decimals and fractions, you have zilch cause for whining. And if you don't know what those things are, don't sign your goddamn name and go open an 8th grade textbook. When I did real estate, before I came to banking, after my company recovered from my father's treachery, which, by the way, required me to borrow at a backbreaking sum, which I repaid in full on time, back when I was still doing real estate, my company had a handful of rental properties. I didn't handle them directly, but one of my men complains to me over coffee one morning about a group of squatters. See, we'd acquired an historic building, deco brickwork, up the street from a grammar school. For 20 years, it had been slipping into ruin. We had to strip the place down to the outer walls to restore it. Only problem was the past residents, a band of 3 of them, wouldn't leave. We paid everyone to vacate, gave plenty of notice, a few $100 so they could pay for movers. But these 3 guys wouldn't budge. My man in charge says he's going to go down there with uniformed cops because our construction partner wants to work. I say, no, don't call the cops. Let's you and me go talk to them. These 3 guys, I find out, squatting in our building are Vietnam vets on disability. 2 of them served together in the infantry. They were all staying together in this 800 square foot apartment. Walls banded with yellow from the tobacco. Pitch and shit drying on the windowsills. Smells like vinegar and fried eggs and athlete's foot. But they invite us in. They're pleasantly shocked to be face to face with 2 suits, 2 stiffs from the big company threatening their home. So we sit on their collapsed sofa and we have a chat about wrong. Or I should say, we're lectured about wrong. A 6.5 Harlem bruiser with a burn scar across the guy's cheek, looks around, looks like ground beef, tells me I have done wrong. He informs with a blast of spittle, "This is our home! This is our neighborhood!" I explain the situation legally, and the guy grabs a cast iron skillet to demonstrate how he feels about legality. Legal doesn't mean decent, he says. And you know what? I was convinced. Almost. Listening to this guy talk about the jungle and his nightmares, the down economy, I was almost convinced. I glanced around the apartment. There were brown tomato plants on the fire escape. At the washed-out photograph of a tan Labrador nailed to the wall, who I gathered must have died since its collar was hanging from the nail. Then, finally, I see the boy. A boy in a long t-shirt gawping at me from the door jamb to the bed. Lanky, silent-eyed, at the clumsy end of childhood, right? There weren't 3 adult men living there. There was 3 men and that bruiser's 12-year-old. I swallowed. Suddenly, I see their dump as an actual home. Not as a building, not as a property. This was a real man sitting across from me. Passionate man who was dealt a bad hand. Then, after the plants, the dog, and the boy, I noticed a massive brand new TV on a board laid between cinder blocks. 35 inches at least, silver plastic. And it doesn't add up. So I say, okay, you win. The muscles in my associate's jaw turn to jelly as I roll up out of the couch. To the big bruiser I say, you win. I won't gut the building. You can all stay. And then, to pat their new TV, I tell the man, just give me back my $500 check. That's part 2. He didn't have the check. He'd already cashed it and might as well have tossed the crisp new bills in the sewer. Bought a big TV. You can't do wrong to the willing. He hated me for buying his building, perfectly legal. He didn't hate me, but he didn't hate my $500. You can't complain about the system you daily participate in. Part 3. You're jealous. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, judge, counselor, assorted gossips, do-nothings, you are jealous. So help me, I will never sue for mercy from an envious rabble. I live like a kangaroo. I no longer need patience unless it's convenient. You're jealous of this. It's understandable because it's in our natures to acquire, to have, to buffer ourselves from the cold hardships of our planet. Because you're fantasists. Because you so obviously live your life in a story, you see me as the king of shadows in a crooked stone tower on a hill. You see me as the red dragon hunched over Lady Liberty, bound to a rock. You think, we have to untie her. We have to forge a mighty spear, raid the serpent's hoard. Well, guess what? You've been duped. Shadow kings and dragons are infinite. There will never be enough swords. The corn you buy at the supermarket, my friends, is fertilized with the oil of serpents' bodies. The main difference between those of us who become kings and those who stay serfs is knowing that the struggle is forever. You dream of a whole nation equal in terms of wealth. You think this will happen if pale-faced bureaucrats snatch at the purses of dukes. Well, it won't happen. Not as long as you suckle the delusion of an axe blessed by the gods. The dragon is our own flesh. You can't cut it down. You're jealous that I know this so concretely. Jealous of what you're terrified to admit. A, that you're drowning in a storybook. B, that you aren't an alpha primate. C, that the misery of your life is directly related to your own efforts. So in conclusion, go right ahead and slay me. Rob me and let gold coins rain in the streets. I'm a patient man. I can savor one piece of candy every day as I decide how to have 2 again. Rewrite the laws however you want. Have at it. Good luck in wringing blood from that stone. Write me a letter when you've legislated the savannah. Savage my name, my company, handily ignore the fact that we charitably donate millions per year to hospitals and schools. Convict me because I'm unrepentant, because I won't beg for mercy, because I fragrantly and without chagrin have pursued the high life, lots of liberty, and whatever happiness I could scavenge. Thank you.
That's profound, fact.